All right, we are starting on page 210, lesson 3.5, graph a line using intercepts. So if you're not on this page yet, please pause the video and get to that page. Okay, so this lesson is about graphing a line using intercepts. So we already know that the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. So the x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis. So to find the x or a y-intercept, to find either one, you will plug in 0 for the opposite letter and solve. We're going to plug in 0 for the opposite letter and solve. Okay, so let's take a look at this first equation. We have y equals 1.5x minus 9. So what the directions say is state the x and y intercepts and then graph the line using them. Okay, so since this equation is in slope-intercept form, we already know that the y-intercept is -9. It's this number right here. So my y-intercept is -9. I'm going to write that down. So now the only thing I have to find is my x-intercept. So now we just wrote down, in order to find an x or a y-intercept, you're going to plug in 0 for the opposite letter. So since I'm finding the x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for the y and solve. So I'm going to write 0 equals 1.5x minus 9. Now before I can divide, I need to move my 9 over to the opposite side. I have 1.5x equals 9, and now I'm going to divide by 1.5x. So over here I'm going to take 9 and divide by 1.5. I'm going to move the decimal once and this decimal once. And then 15 divides into 90 6 times exactly. So my x-intercept is 6. So now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to find -9 on the y-axis. So I'm going to go down to my coordinate plane. This is -6, -7, -8, -9 if this were extended. -9 would be about right here. So I'm going to find -9 on my y-axis and plot a point. And then my x-intercept is 6. So now I'm going to find 6 on the x-axis and plot a point. And then I'm going to use my straight edge to connect the dots and draw the line of my graph. Okay, let's try another one. So go back to your book on page 210 and take a look at the Got It problem A. Let's try that one. Okay, so we're going to find the x and y intercepts, we're going to state them, and then we're going to graph the line. So take a look at this equation. This equation is in slope-intercept form. So the y-intercept is 5. We already have it. It's this right here. So I'm going to state y-intercept is 5. Now to find my x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for the opposite letter, which means I'm going to plug in 0 for the y. So right here on the side, do this with me in your book. You're going to plug in 0 equals -1/3 x plus 5. So now before you can divide, you've got to move the 5 to the opposite side by subtracting it. So you have -5 equals -1/3 x. And now, because we're dividing by a fraction, that means we're going to flip it. We're going to write the reciprocal and multiply both sides by it. So I'm going to multiply the reciprocal and write -3/1 times -3/1. And then I'm going to cross cancel. So my x-intercept is, okay, -3 times -5 is +15. Okay, so I'm stating my y-intercept is 5, my x-intercept is 15. So now I'm going to come over to my y-axis and I'm going to find 5 on the y. So since this is counting by 2's, this is 2, 4, 6, that means 5 is going to be in the middle of 4 and 6. It'll be in the middle of this line. So the y-intercept is 5, and now the x-intercept is 15. So if this is counting by 2's, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 is right here halfway. So I plot my y-intercept on the y-axis, my x-intercept on the x-axis, and then I use a straight edge to draw a nice straight line with arrows. Okay, let's try another one. Take a look at B, problem B. Okay, so we're going to state the x and y intercepts, and then we're going to graph them. So again, if your equation is in slope-intercept form already, your y-intercept is this number right here in the end. So I'm going to write that down. My y-intercept is 3. Now I need to find my x-intercept. So again, remember, if you're finding your x-intercept, you're plugging in 0 for the y. So I'm just going to do this right now. I'm going to plug in 0 for the y. I'm going to make that 0. So now before I can divide, I've got to move this 3 to the other side, subtract it. So I have negative 3 equals negative 3 halves x. And now, in order to get rid of this fraction next to my variable, I'm going to divide by it, which means I flip it and multiply both sides by it. I'm going to write the reciprocal of this and multiply both sides by it. So multiply this side by negative 2/3 and this side by negative 2/3. So these all cancel out, and I have x equals. I can reduce my 3's, but I have 2 negatives here. So when I multiply, 2 negatives equal positive, and 2 times 1 is 2. So my x-intercept is 2. So I'm stating the x and y-intercept, and now I'm going to plot those points. So I'm going to find 3 on the y-axis and plot the point. Now I'm going to find 2 on the x-axis. That's my x-intercept. And then I can use a straight edge to draw a nice straight line with arrows. All right, and that's how you find the x and y intercepts. We will practice more tomorrow.